Hey VC, it's Jim. I decided to do another listening stack video. I'm making 2 videos in a week after about 7 months off. I wanted to talk for a few minutes first, though, about why I haven't been making videos for a while, other than the obvious weirdness of COVID and all that. We got back into our house. A lot of you may not know that we lost our home to a fire during the 2017 wildfires here in Northern California. And we got into our house just at the end of 2019, just before 2020. And so we've gotten to know our house really well since we've been back, because for a long time we really couldn't leave it. But one of the things that I've been spending my time doing, it was something that we decided to do in lieu of replacing furniture from our old house, was for me to build furniture. So I've been doing a lot of that, building our furniture, and specifically recently been working on finishing this bookcase for records and books. And the idea for this was really to have a place for all my records and art books, but also have a place that was kind of fixed in place and didn't really have any room for expansion, so that once I get to the end of how many records I can put in there, I have to start trading them out or replacing them. Because I think at some point you really got to control this thing called record collecting. The first thing to know is that when we moved into this house, when we had it redesigned, we ended up with really tall ceilings in this room. It wasn't something either my wife or I realized how tall the ceilings were going to be. And so we had this great wall space that we could use. And it's about 12 feet tall. So I just built the bookcase all the way to the ceiling and built a ladder to utilize to get up to those spaces. So it's pretty practical, but in some ways the bookcase is not practical at all, because the shelves are not adjustable, and that's because I'm a designer and like the way things look. And so the things we put on the shelf basically adapt to the shelves rather than the other way around. But you know, that's life. So if anybody has any interest in seeing the furniture that I build, just let me know in the comments, and I'll tack something on at the end of the video at some point. It's not VC related, so I didn't want to really do that. So on to some records. All right, so records I've been listening to in the last few weeks, quite a bit. First is a tribute to Gang of Four and Andy Gill, who passed away in January of 2020. He died of pneumonia, but I think that there's some speculation that it may have been COVID. He had just returned from China a little bit before that, and died of pneumonia at the end of January in 2020. So I don't know if that's what happened, but he passed away. We had seen them less than a year before that. I think in the spring of 2019, we had seen Gang of Four in San Francisco. So it was pretty shocking to find out that he had passed away. So this is the record, The Problem of Leisure, a celebration of Andy Gill and Gang of Four. It's a lot of different artists who were influenced by Gang of Four, who grew up listening to Gang of Four. Yeah, there's a pretty long list of artists who had wanted to be part of this. And Andy Gill actually was putting this together for a few years before he passed away. So this was a project that was already in the works, and some of the recordings had already happened prior to him passing away. And then it was completed after he died. But it's got a phenomenal list of artists on this, starting with Idols, who do an amazing cover of Damaged Goods, Helmet, Gary Newman, Lone Lady, LaRue, Everything, the Dandy Warhols, Warpaint, Flea, The Sounds, Killing Joke. There's just a lot of great people on this record. Yeah. And the music is amazing. It's Gang of Four songs, but they've been kind of reinterpreted by a lot of these artists in a pretty amazing way. The edition that I have is the limited edition this is designed by Damien Hirst, the artist. This is the one with the googly eye on it, and this is a numbered edition of 666, which is something that Damien Hirst likes to do. But this comes with some, gatefold. It's got a big poster. The poster is of this piece of artwork, and it's on, I think it's red vinyl. Yeah. Red vinyl with the big googly eye. I think both of them are red. Yeah, they're both red. I keep thinking red and white, but that's just because of the label. So, looks exactly the same, so I'm not quite sure why I pulled out the second record. Yeah, so it's a great record. It's really worth a listen.
I checked it from the good. I always knew it would. Sometimes I'm thinking that I love you, but I know it's only lost. Your kiss so sweet, your sweat so sour. Your kiss so sweet.
Godspeed You Black Emperor, their latest release from 2020. Godspeed at State's End. So if you're a fan of Godspeed You Black Emperor, you won't be disappointed. It's really great stuff. It's sort of, classic post-rock, very sort of anthemic, cascading, building, screaming guitars, in a big chorus of sound, married with found sounds and other things. This has, it's a gatefold, double LP, but it's a 12-inch and a 10-inch. So there's, this is the 12-inch, and then there is a 10-inch that comes along with it. Always an interesting band, pretty active politically, but really great music. Next is something that, you know, it's not post-rock, but Spiritualized has always kind of felt like there was some connection there, just because of the sort of droning nature of some of their music. I think it was something that was happening in the 90s. This is the first record, Laser Guided Melodies, from 1992. But this is a version released this year on Fat Possum. And the artwork is new. It's new photography using the same sculptures that were photographed for the original artwork. So it's new, but it's yeah, same models or sculptures, I should say, but different. It's white instead of black, I guess, to go along with it. White vinyl on a double LP, and these are half-speed 45 RPM, and they sound great. I think that Fat Possum is doing a really nice job with these. They have released the first 3 this way, but I haven't picked up the next 2 yet. I'll do that soon. Okay, this is Rye, Home. If you're not already familiar with Rye, Rye's a R&B, kind of chill, yeah, I don't know how else you could describe Rye. Mike Meloche is the kind of principal of Rye, and he sings in a falsetto, beautiful voice. Rye was kind of a part of my wife and I's adapting to COVID in the beginning, when he and Rye and Diplo were doing dance parties in the first few weeks of lockdown. They were doing these live video feed dance parties, and that was a lot of fun for my wife and I. It let us kind of relieve some pressure, you know. Yeah. But the record's beautiful. You know, it's the, I think, 5th LP, 4th or 5th, maybe 4th LP from Rye, and pretty consistent. Just very beautiful, chill R&B.
Your eyes tell me things I wanna know. We have a long night. I'll leave it all behind. You made it through these rough waters, and your hair's still wet. Come on in from the cold.
Finally, we've got Brendan Perry's new record, Songs of Disenchantment, music from the Greek underground. So this is a record that came out last year, in 2020, and it is Brendan Perry doing traditional Greek kind of folk music. The type of music that this is called rebetiko, and it's music that you would have heard in coffee shops in Greece in like the 1920s and 30s. kind of, I don't know, outlaw music in a way. It'd be, you know, in a way a little like, you know, gangster rap is now, in that, you know, it's music that could get you in trouble at that time politically, just because, you know, they were in a fascist state. But also it was music that really just talked about kind of what it meant to be poor and kind of, you know, on the outskirts of society. And it's really beautiful music. It's, you know, just has an amazing sound. And Perry has translated the Greek lyrics into English. I think that they don't always, you know, translate perfectly, but I think that's just the nature of, you know, being, you know, a century removed from it, in addition to trying to translate from one language to another. I mean, a lot of the language of the music of the original lyrics were sort of, you know, shorthand or, you know, colloquialisms. So they, you know, it doesn't necessarily translate, but some of them are kind of amazing. Like, you know, 5 by 5 meant, it meant barefoot, you know, and barefoot in the sense of barefoot and afraid. So it was a term that kind of meant you were frightened. And there are lots of little phrases like that get thrown into the music that are interesting if you kind of learn where they come from. But Brendan Perry, if you're not familiar, is one half of the founding of Dead Can Dance with Lisa Gerrard. And he's got a beautiful voice, not a voice that I initially warmed to in the early days of Dead Can Dance. It took me a few years to really kind of get past Lisa Gerrard's amazing voice and realize what a great voice Brendan Perry had. And also, you know, what an amazing musician he is. He's only released a few records on his own since Dead Can Dance. The first 2 of which are next to impossible to get on vinyl, and definitely grails of mine that I haven't been able to replace.
Then this cop comes in with a gun and puts a bullet through our narghile. Then this cop comes in with a gun, puts a bullet through our narghile.
Yeah, so that's it. Hope that was interesting or something. And I'll try and do more of these as time goes on. Hope everybody's doing well, and thanks for taking the time to watch, especially if you made it all the way to this point. Take care, everybody.